Hi guys, welcome to the Fight Tonight channel. Kambosos Jr. tells Ryan Garcia to get in line. Kambosos Jr. gave unbeaten lightweight contender Ryan Garcia the brush off on Saturday, telling him to get in line behind WBC 135-pound belt holder Devin Haney and Vasiliy Lomachenko. Those are the two that the 4-belt champion Kambosos Jr. is considering for his next fight in June in Australia. Losing to Ryan Garcia would make Kambosos Jr. look really bad in the eyes of fans, particularly with his Aussie followers. A defeat at the hands of the young contender King Rai would be devastating to Kambosos' career and would likely finish him for good. In contrast, Kambosos being dethroned by Lomachenko or Haney isn't nearly as bad a look for him. How would Kambosos ever come back from a loss to Ryan? There is a genuine possibility that Kambosos Jr. would lose to Ryan by a knockout because he gets too much and he doesn't possess the greatest chin. Kambosos, 28, and Ryan have been trading trash talk this week, leading many boxing fans to believe that the two will be fighting next or at least very soon. However, Kambosos Jr. made it clear on Twitter this weekend that he has no intention of fighting the unbeaten 23-year-old Ryan Garcia. Kambosos says he wants to fight the best challenger for his next fight. Friends, before starting to watch this video, I would like to ask you to subscribe to my channel. If you really enjoy the content, then please subscribe to my channel and keep watching the videos. If you are subscribed, then you receive notifications about the release of new videos. You do not even have to look for anything personally. I really want to get 200 subscribers on my channel. I'm trying very hard, absolutely every day, and I need your support. Your likes, comments, reposts to social networks. Thanks to everyone who subscribes to my channel. You are my support, thank you so much. If Kambosos Jr. is serious about wanting to fight the best, then he needs to stretch Haney off his list because he is not the best out there. Loma, Gervonta Tank Davis and Isaac Cruz are better fighters than Haney and far more entertaining. Haney is the safe choice for Kambosos Jr. if he wants to avoid a loss, and that the likely guy he will choose for his next fight. Sean Jones is predicting that Kambosos Jr. will choose Haney, but it is evident from the start that he would face him rather than Lomachenko and Gervonta in his first and likely last defense of his 4 lightweight titles. Listen, like I said, buddy, I like you. You're a good kid, but take a ticket and get in line. I got real business to handle first. Say Kambosos Jr. on Twitter. I want the best challenger to give the world the best fights possible. Kambosos continued. Haney, matchroom boxing, Lomachenko top-rank boxing. It takes 2 to tango, so let's get this done ASAP. The stadium in Australia awaits, and still, Kambosos Jr. probably doesn't want to lose them beautiful bouts in front of his Australian fans in a large stadium fight next June. If the goals for Kambosos are not to get beaten up and dethroned in his next fight, he needs to put Lomachenko at the back of the line because he will wreck the party for George for sure. Despite the possibility that Kambosos might end up making more money fighting Ryan than he will Haney or Lomachenko, he still has no interest in that fight. Kambosos' next fight could be the end of his 15 minutes of the fame, seeing that he's likely to lose. If not for Teofimo Lopez being injured and weight drained last November, Kambosos Jr. would have likely lost the fight. Before that fight, Kambosos' best wins were narrow split decision victories over the old shop-worn 37-year-old Mickey Bay and 34-year-old Rish Alby. Some boxing fans believed Kambosos should have lost both of the fights. Whatever the case, these fights showed Kambosos' talent level. Can Kambosos Jr. fill a stadium in Australia? You can count Sean Jones among the group of fans that are skeptical that Kambosos Jr. will be able to sell out a large stadium in Australia. Kambosos Jr. keeps blabbering about and now there is a stadium waiting in Australia for his next opponent, but it's just empty words from the wild-eyed fighter. If you are the promoter that would be the one in charge of leasing the stadium, you might want to hold off and test Kambosos' popularity first by putting him in a small stadium in Australia to make sure that fans will turn out to see him. The last thing you want is to book a massive 80,000 stadium in Australia and then only 2,000 fans show up. That would be a pure disaster of epic proportions. Floyd Mayweather's fighter, who whooped Jake Paul in sparring reveals, starting in 6th. Jake Paul doesn't seem to have a lot of believers from Team Floyd Mayweather. The problem child and Mayweather have already been into some serious feuds in the past, and Paul continues to last out at the TBE, accusing him of stealing Logan Paul's pay-per-view share. Besides, multiweight champion Gervonta Davis from Mayweather's camp has also dominated Jake Paul several times. On the contrary, Rolando Romero has applauded Jake Paul. Rolly believes Jake Paul can become a boxing world champion down the line, something which Paul had already vowed to do. Romero connected exclusively with Fight Hype and claimed to have beaten Jake Paul during their sparring session, but he couldn't help himself from praising Paul's boxing drills. He said, "People want to talk all this shit about the dude. The dude really wants to be a champion. The dude trains like a real world champion. He trains harder than me and I really like. I'm not gonna say I don't train hard. I train really fucking hard, you know? But he trains harder than me. In reality, I don't train that hard." Rolando Romero further justified how he trains smart instead of hard. While he foresees himself facing Gervonta Davis ahead, Rolly detailed how Jake Paul follows a different approach from his. He continued, "There is some days, but a lot of times, we're resting our body and stuff like that. But Jake Paul, when I mean he trains hard, he trains hard. Like he really wants to be something, you know. Like I said, it won't surprise me if he becomes a world champion." Well, Jake Paul has claimed to retire from the sport after amassing a perfect 10-0 record. Recently, the dethroned former WBC featherweight champion Gary Russell Jr. called out Gervonta Tank Davis and Vasiliy Lomachenko last Saturday night, making it clear that he wants a fight against either one of those fighters next. Russell Jr. says he is willing to move up to 130 or 135 to get important fights against super featherweights and lightweights like Tank, Loma and Devin Haney. What's troubling is that the former WBC 126-pound champion Russell Jr. is still talking about wanting to fight once a year only, being seen only on an annual basis by fans. It keeps Russell from emerging as one of the stars in the sport. It's as if he is fine with doing it a minimum, and that ultimately will prevent him from getting the important name fighters to face him. Why would they want to face a guy that's not well known to casual boxing fans? Before Russell can potentially meet up with either of those well-known fighters, he says he needs 6 months for his injured shoulder to heal, and then he will be ready to return to the ring. The 33-year-old Russell Jr. lost his WBC 126-pound title #1 contender Mark Magsayo last month on January 22, losing a close 12-round majority decision in Atlantic City. Russell was coming off a nearly 2-year layoff at the time and looked rusty and nowhere near as sharp as in his previous fight. Although Russell says he wants a rematch with the 26-year-old Magsayo, his promoters aren't interested in waiting around a year or two for a fight with him. Instead, Team Magsayo wants to fight #1 WBC Ray Vargas next, and then look to get the big names. "Hell yeah," said Gary Russell Jr. to Fight Hype when asked if he is interested in going up to 135 to take on Devin Haney, Vasiliy Lomachenko or Tank Davis. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel.